you are the most damaging allegations from John Bolton against Donald Trump?
Well, he's laid some specific allegations of real corruption beyond confirming the main Ukraine-based allegation in the impeachment scandal, namely that the president sought to essentially trade military aid that had already been passed by Congress for a damaging and bogus investigation by the Ukrainian government into Joe Biden, or at least the announcement that such an investigation had started. There were also specific incidents that Bolton witnessed of essentially horse trading with China and with Turkey, the presidents of China and Turkey, in which Bolton witnessed Trump essentially offer to do a favor for the government of China and for the government of Turkey on either a criminal matter or an economic matter in return for some kind of favor. President Xi at one point said, well, to the president, if you do this, I'll owe you, right? The president, and another point, the president asked the president of the United States asked the president of China to help him with his reelection by buying more agricultural products. I mean, the list of what Bolton offered goes on and on. These are things that are really naked corruption, where the president of the United States is using the power of his office to give favors to foreign governments in return for some kind of help or some kind of favor relating to his reelection. I mean, that's literally the definition of putting one's personal political interests above the interests of the country. I think when Martha Raddatz asked him a good question, how can the impeachment, proceedings in Congress have known? And that's a great question. I don't think Bolton gave a great answer. If Bolton himself was serious about wanting to get this information out there, he should have made sure he got it out there during the impeachment trial. Whether testifying in front of the House clearly would have been the way to do it.
It's true. These allegations are really extraordinary. I guess the big question is we've seen other extraordinary allegations made against Donald Trump in the past, didn't seem to have an effect. Will any of these stick? And will the release of this book actually be bad for Donald Trump?
Well, it certainly doesn't help him. I think, to some degree, the polling numbers are baked in. Joe Biden had a lead over the first part of this year, head-to-head with Donald Trump, that was very consistent at about 5 to 6 points. That has gotten worse for President Trump over the last 6 weeks or so. Joe Biden is now polling consistently with a lead of about 9 points, maybe somewhere between 8 and 10. This is, the Bolton revelations, I think, further bake in for most people what they already thought about Donald Trump. Either they think of him as ruthless and willing to do anything to win, and that's a good thing, and that's his base, or they think of him as hopelessly corrupt. I can't help but imagine that there is a smaller and smaller number of people who are willing maybe to consider voting for him, but who are going to be turned off by this. Because the people who are maybe considering voting for him are already people who are turned off by him in some way. And that's one of the things that polling shows. People who have a negative opinion about Joe Biden and a negative opinion about Donald Trump say at this point that overwhelmingly they're going to support Joe Biden. 4 years ago, that was the opposite. People who had a negative opinion about Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, for the most part, were voting for Donald Trump. Now that seems to have flipped. And I think these revelations of corruption are only going to harden the attitude of people who really don't love Joe Biden, but really don't like Donald Trump. They're going to say, listen, we can't have another 4 years of this. We're going to vote for Joe Biden, and we'd vote for pretty much any Democrat as long as we weren't completely turned off.
Ian, thanks for that. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us. Ian Reifowitz.